Have you ever looked into the mirror and wondered why your life keeps repeating the same invisible patterns? Why do certain people trigger emotions so intense that they seem completely out of proportion? Why do we sabotage opportunities we separately wanted? Why do we sometimes destroy the very relationship we prayed for? Most people believe the greatest battle in life are fought against circumstances, difficult people, or an unfair word, but Carl Jung spent his entire life studying something far more disturbing. He believed the greatest war is not outside you, it is within you, and the most dangerous enemy is the one you can't see because it wears your face, it speaks with your voice, it justifies your decision and it quietly shapes your entire life while remaining hidden beneath your awareness. Today, I want to invite you on a journey that may change the way you see yourself forever. This is not a motivational speech. It is not about positive thinking. It is not about becoming perfect. It is about discovering the hidden part of yourself that silently influence for your fears, your ambitions, your relationships, and even the future you are creating. Carl Jung called this hidden world the shadow. But before you imagine something dark or evil, understand this. The shadow is not a monster living inside you. It is the collection of every part of yourself you were taught to reject, every emotion you learned to hide, every dream you abandoned to gain acceptance, every fear you buried so deeply that even you forgot it existed. The shadow is not what makes you broken, it is what remains unseen. Imagine a child standing in front of a blank canvas. The child laughs loudly, cries openly, asks endless questions, dreams without limits. That child does not yet know which emotions are acceptable and which are forbidden. But slowly, almost invisible, the bird begins teaching lessons. Don't cry. Good boys, don't get angry. Good girls, don't argue. Be perfect. Don't disappoint us. People would not love you if you act like that. These sentences may sound harmless, yet every repeated message becomes a silent architect of personality without realizing it. The child begins making an unconscious decision. If showing this part of me cases rejection, then I will hide it. And that is where the hidden war begins, not with violence, not with failure, but with separation. The separation between who you truly are and who you believed must become in the order to be accepted. This is one of Jung's most profound insight. Human beings rarely reject themselves overnight. They learn to do it slowly, piece of piece by piece, year after years, until one day they no longer remember who they were before they started wearing masks. Jung called one of these masks the persona. The persona is the face we present to the world. It is useful, society needs it. Without it, cooperation would be difficult. We all adjust our behavior depending on where we are. You speak differently with your family than you do during a job interview. That is natural. The problem begins when the mask becomes stronger than the person wearing it. When success matters more than authenticity, when appearance matters more than truth, when approval becomes more important than peace, and something extraordinary happens. Everything that does not fit the mask is quietly pushed into the unconscious anger, fear, jealousy, creativity, sensitivity, even courage. Yes, even our greatest strength can become part of the shadow if we were taught they were unacceptable. Some children learn that confidence is arrogance. Others learn that kindness is weakness. Some are punished for curiosity, others are punished for vulnerability. So they hide these qualities not because they disappear, but because they become invisible. Think about that for a moment. Nothing truly disappears inside a human psyche. It simply moves beyond unconscious awareness, and whatever remains unconscious does not stop influencing your life. It begins influencing it without your permissions. Have you ever promised yourself that this time you would remain calm, only to explode in anger? Have you ever entered a healthy relationship but somehow recreated the same painful ending? Have you ever achieved a goal you dreamed about for years, only to feel strangely, strangely empty once you reached it? Carl Jung would say these are not random events, they are messages from the unconscious asking to be heard. Modern society teaches us to improve our resumes, our appearances, our income, and our productivity. Very few people are taught how to understand themselves. We are educated to solve mathematical equations, to memorize historical dates, to build careers, but almost nobody teaches us how to understand our own unconscious fear. And perhaps this is why so many successful people still feel lost. They built an impressive outer life while neglecting the inner one. Jung warned that what we refuse to face within ourselves does not disappear, it returns in another form, sometimes as anxiety, sometimes as self sabotage, sometimes as depression, sometimes as repeated conflicts, sometimes as an unexplained feeling that something is missing even when life appears successful from the outside. One of Jung's most quoted ideas captured his truth beautifully. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct you to life and you will call it fate. Think about those words carefully. How many times have we blamed fate, luck, other people, or circumstances without, without ever asking whether an invisible part of ourselves was quietly shaping the outcomes? This is not about blaming yourself, it is about reclaiming responsibilities because responsibilities is where freedom begins. The purpose of this journey is not to become someone else, it is to become more completely yourself, not by denying your darkness, but by understanding it, not by pretending to be perfect, but by becoming whole. Because wholeness is far more powerful than perfection, and perhaps the most remarkable discovery you will make it. This the shadow does not only contain your fears, sometimes it contains your greatest gifts, your creativity, your courage, your voice, your authenticity. The very qualities capable of transforming your life may have been buried simply because at some point in your childhood you believed they were unsafe to express. So, before we continue, I invite you to ask yourself one honest question: what part of yourself have I spent my entire life trying to hide? Because answer to that question may become the beginning of your greatest transformation. Carl Jung believed that no one is born with a divided personality. A newborn child does not arrive believing that anger is wrong, that sadness is weakness, or that love must be entered. A child simply experiences life. Joy is expressed without hesitation, tears fall without shame, curiosity flow naturally. There is no inner judge decision which emotions deserve to exist. But slowly something began to change. The child enters a world filled with expectations without realizing it. They begin learning an invisible laughing of approval and rejection. A smile from parents says, "This part of you is welcome." A harsh criticism quietly says, "This part of you is dangerous." Perhaps a child carry too much. Perhaps they ask too many questions. Perhaps they were told they were too sensitive, too emotional, too quiet, or too ambitious. These words may last only a few seconds, but their psychological echo and remains for decades. The children does not analyze these expectations intellectually. Instead, they adapt because for a child, survival is not simply about food or shelter, it is about belonging. Love is experienced as safely. Acceptance feels like survival. So the child make an unconscious bargain. If, if showing this part of myself risks losing love, then I will hide it. Notice something important: the child is not lying, the child is protecting themselves, and in many cases, this adaptation is necessarily. The problem is not that the child created a mask, the problem is that many adults never realize they are still wearing it. Years pass, years pass, the child become a teenager become an adult, the career change, the city change, the relationship begins and end, yet the unconscious strategy remains exactly the same. Don't disappoint people, never show weakness, always prove your worth, keep everyone happy. The face grows older, but the unconscious script remains untouched. This is why Jung believed that adulthood does not automatically create maturity. Many people grow older without ever becoming psychologically aware. They simply become more skilled at repeating the same unconscious pattern. Imagine a young boy who was praised only when he achieved something remarkable. Every good grade brought affection, every victory brought approval, every failure brought silence. Without anyone intending harm, the child slowly reached an invisible conclusion: I am valuable only when I succeed. Years later, he becomes a successful professional. Everyone admires him. His achievement continue to grow. Yet inside he is exhausted. Rest feels like failure. Mistakes feels unbearable. Compliments never satisfy him for long. No achievement is ever enough. From outside, people see confidence. Inside, a frightened child is still trying to earn love. Now imagine a different story. A young girl grows up in an environment where expressions anger is considered unacceptable. Whenever she becomes upset, she hears good girls don't get angry. So she learns to smile instead. She becomes kind, helpful, patient. Every praises her gentle personality, but anger never disappeared. It simply went underground. Years later, she finds herself attracting, controlling relationship. She says yes when she desperately wants to say no. She avoids conflicts at every cost. Then one day, after years of silent resentment, a small disagreement caused an explosive emotional reaction. People around her are shocked. They say, "You completely overreacted." But Jung would ask a different question. He would ask, was this really about today, or was today simply the moment when years of suppressed emotion finally demanded to be seen? This is one of the most important lessons of analytical psychology. Life does not always create our emotional reactions, sometimes it reveals them. Many of the battles we believe began yesterday actually started years ago. They simply waited for the right moment to emerge. That's why two people can experience the exact same situation yet react completely different. One person receives criticism and calmly reflects on it, and other hears the same words and feels overwhelming shame. The difference is rarely the event itself. The difference is emotional history attached to it. The unconscious is not merely a strong storage room for forgotten memories. It is an active living system. It remembers emotional experience when even when conscious memory fade, a particular tone of voice, a certain facial impression, a familiar feeling of rejection. These small details can awaken old emotional pattern before unconscious thoughts has time to respond. Have you ever met someone for only a few minutes and immediately felt uncomfortable without knowing why? Or perhaps you instantly trusted someone without understanding the reason. Jung believed that the unconscious constantly communicates through feelings, symbols, intuitions, and emotional associations. Most people dismiss these experiences, but psychological awareness begins when we become curious instead of dismissive. Instead of asking, why am I so emotional? Ask, what is the emotion trying to protect? Instead of saying, this always happened to me, ask, what pattern keeps repeating beneath different circumstances? These questions are uncomfortable, but discomfort is often the doorway to transformation. The shadow grows stronger in darkness. Awareness weakens its control. This is why Jung never encouraged people to hate their shadow. He encouraged them to understand it, because what you understand no longer needs to control you from behind the scene. The goal is not to erase your past. The goal is to stop allowing the past to unconsciously write your filler. Imagine crying a heavy backpack since childhood. After years of crying, carrying it, you no longer notice its weight. It feels normal. Only when someone helps you to set it down, you realize how much energy it was consumption every single day. The unconscious works in much the same way. The influence becomes invisible precisely because it has been present so present for so long. And perhaps this is why genuine self discovery requires courage, not because we will discover that we are monster, but because we may discover that many of beliefs guiding our lives were never truly ours. They were inherited, learned, adapted, repeated. The beautiful truth is that what was learned can also be examined. What was hidden can be brought into awareness, and what once felt like destiny may simply have been an unconscious pattern waiting for someone brave enough to notice it. In the stage of our journey, we will explore one of the Jung's most strongest ideas, that people who disturb us, attract us, or even break our heart often become mirror reflecting part of ourselves we have never fully understood. Sometimes the greatest teacher in your life is not the person who agrees with you. It is the person who knowingly reveals what has been hidden inside you all along. Carl Jung never believed that psychological transformation happened overnight. There is no single meditation, no secret ritual, and no magical technique that instantly dissolved the unconscious. The journey he described was far more demanding, but also far more rewarding. He called it individuation. Individuation is not about becoming different a person. It is about becoming a person you were always capable for being before fear, shame, and unconscious conditions convinced you to hide parts of yourself. Think of an ancient house that has remained locked for decades. Dust has gathered in forgotten rooms. Old photographs lies hidden beneath broken furniture. Some rooms contain painful memories. Other contains extraordinary treasures that no one has seen for years. Most people Most people spend their lives decoding the outside of the house. Very few have the courage to unlock the doors inside. Jung believed your mind is much like the house. Every room you avoid continues to exist. Ignoring it does not make it disappear. The first step is super surprisingly simple. The first step is surprisingly simple. Observe instead of immediate reacting. The next time someone angers you, resist the urge to instantly blame or defend yourself. Instead, pause. Ask yourself, why did this affect me so deeply? Not even painful emotion is projection. Sometimes people genuinely hurts us, sometimes injustice is real, sometimes boundaries are necessary. Shadow work is not about pretending that every conflict is your fault. It's about honestly asking whether your emotional reaction has become a larger than event itself. Awareness creates space between emotion and action, and within that space lies freedom. Another powerful practice Jung recommended was paying attention to recurring pattern. Ask yourself, why do I keep attracting similar relationships? Why do I fear success just before I achieve it? Why do I repeatedly seek approval from people who cannot give it? Why do the same emotional bonds keep returning under different names? Patterns are rarely in accidents, they are often unfinished psychological lesson. Your unconscious repeats that what conscious mind refused to understand. This is why many people believe that they have changed when they have only changed the scenery. A different city, a different career, a different relationship, a different group of friends, yet the same emotional story quietly follow them, not because life is against them, but because the unconscious reveal travel wherever they go. Another important practice is developing the courage to sit with uncomfortable emotions instead of escaping them. Modern life offers endless distractions. When we feel lonely, we scroll through our phones. When we feel anxious, we search for entertainment. When we feel empty, we fill every silent moment with noise. But silence has always been one of the humanity's greatest teachers. Jung spent years studying dreams because he believed the unconscious speaks through symbols. When the unconscious mind finally becomes quiet, you may not remember every dream, you may not understand every symbol, but you can begin paying attention. Keep a notebook and beside your bed, write on recurring dreams, emotions, or images. Don't rush to interrupt them. Simply observe. Patterns often reveal themselves over time. The unconscious rarely shoots, it whispers. And another exercise is beautifully simple. At the end of each day, ask yourself three questions. What emotion appeared mostly strongly today? When did I feel most defensive? When was I trying to protect? These questions are not meant to create guilt, they are meant to create awareness, because awareness is the beginning of transformation. Perhaps the greatest misunderstanding about shadow work is that people believe its purpose is to remove darkness. That was never jungle. Darkness cannot simply be erased. It can be understood, integrated, given a healthy place within unconscious. Imagine trying to eliminate night from the earth. It would be impossible. Day and night belong together. Strength and vulnerability belong together, confidence and humility belongs together, logic and emotion belongs together. The human soul was never designed to become dimensional. It was designed to become whole. The wholeness does not mean you will never experience fear again. It means fear no longer becomes your master. Wholeness does not mean anger disappear. It means anger become wisdom instead of destruction. Wholeness does not mean sadness vanishes forever. It means sadness become compassion instead of despair. Carl Jung once reminded us that the privilege of a lifetime is becoming who you truly are. Noticing, he did not say becoming who society projects, who society expects, not becoming who your family imagined, not becoming who social media reward, becoming who you truly are. The journey requires courage because authenticity often asks us to realize identities we have carried for years. Some people will misunderstand your growth, others will resist it because your change force them to confront their own fears. Don't let that discourage you. The purpose of this journey has never been to impress the world. It has always been to know yourself. So before this video end, I want to leave you with one final reflection. Tonight, before you go to sleep, sit quietly for just 5 minutes. No phone, no music, no distractions. Ask yourself one question with complete honesty. What part of you what part of myself have I been afraid to meet? Do not force an answer. Simple listen. Perhaps nothing will come immediately. Perhaps a memory will appear. Perhaps a forgotten dream. Perhaps an emotion you have avoided for years. But whatever appears, welcome it with curiosity instead of judgment, because the moment you stop running from yourself, you begin walking towards yourself, and that may be the most important journey an human being can ever take. Before this exploration come to an end, I want to share a little about my voice behind these words. My name is Muhammad Naeem Abbas, a mathematician from Pakistan. My academic journey has been rooted in the precious of mathematics, while my personal journey has been devoted to understanding the mysterious of the human mind throughout the works of Carl Jung and depth psychology. As I continue pursuing opportunities for PhD in mathematics, I also remain committed to exploring the profound question that numbers alone cannot answer. Questions about consciousness, meaning, identity, and the hidden dimensions of the human psyche. If these reflections have encouraged you to look inward, then this conversation has already served its purpose. Thank you for spending your time here with me. Until our next exploration, keep questioning, keep observing, and above all, never stop discovering the extraordinary world that exists within you. Thank you.